Welcome to another episode of Photo Enthusiastic. I'm your host, Jim Fair. Today I'm recording myself using the SnapBridge application. Just wanted to let you know I've purchased the 50mm f1.8s lens from Nikon. Here it is. Here's the box from Henry's. And this one was open box. The little pouch was missing. So I was able to save $100 off the normal retail price. Well, actually, they had it on sale for $80 off and gave me another $20 because they like me, I guess. Anyway, so brand new lens, 5-year warranty with Nikon Canada, and already I'm very impressed with the results. Yeah, it was an expensive lens. There's no doubt about it. Probably the most expensive 50mm I've ever purchased. And you know, I've never been into the whole, you know, Zeiss or Voigtlander really high-end lenses. So that stuff's not for me. But I'm willing to pay the extra for the Z lens for that much better corner-to-corner sharpness that you get. And yeah, it's only a 1.8, but that's plenty good for most things. And on mirrorless, your viewfinder is as bright as you want, so you know, it's not like on an optical viewfinder where I would buy the 51.4 just to get the brighter viewfinder, you know, and maybe improve focus accuracy with the 1.4. I don't really feel that's necessary with mirrorless cameras. So anyway, it's been a day and a half of shooting, and put some sample photos up here. You can see corner-to-corner sharpness is spectacular. The color is great. Everything looks wonderful. The out-of-focus bokeh, you know, it's not wonderful, but it's not bad. You know, so it's everything you could want in a 50mm lens, and it's relatively small and relatively light when you compare it to, you know, the 24-70. So this is the lens itself. All it has is the autofocus switch and your big control ring, which you normally use for focus, or you can program it for other things like exposure compensation. Front element's a little bit small looking for a 1.8, but that back element is quite large. You can see how large that is. So comes with a lens hood. HB90 lens hood made in Thailand. The lens itself is made in Thailand, whereas the camera bodies are still made in Japan. So I'm guessing Nikon made the bodies in Japan so they would have fewer problems with production, because they can't afford too many missteps in this new mirrorless world. So how does it compare to my old D750 with the 50mm 1.4? Well, it's one stop slower, but it doesn't really matter on the mirrorless side because the low light is so much better. So I don't feel I need that extra stop of brightness. I don't feel I need to go to the 24-70 f2.8 over the f4. I think the f4 will do just fine. And I don't really want to increase the weight of my kit until we get, say, into a long lens like a 70-200. And that would be my next purchase probably for this kit. I think it's, you know, it's not a bargain price by any stretch of the imagination, but it certainly gives you the promised quality that Nikon has been touting with this new product line. And, you know, after having used the 1.8, I don't really feel I need a 1.4, so I can sort of see their strategy of aiming towards the 80% of the market rather than the 20%, you know, people who consider themselves pros and are just going to buy the 2.8 just because that's what pros normally use, you know, regardless of the logic or illogic of that with a modern sensor, you know. I can see their strategy makes a certain amount of sense. Whereas if you look at Canon's strategy, their bodies have this terrible crippling effect of various things they've done to cripple the video, like a huge crop in 4K, missing modes, all kinds of things. Whereas Nikon has none of that, and 10-bit 422 out to an external recorder. So I think Nikon's solution is perhaps superior to Canon's in some regards, in others not. I like the fact Canon has some faster glass, but since I don't really want to buy that faster glass, I can just like it from a distance, right? I'm not going to put my money on it. So, and all they have is the R and the RP, and we have a similar product breakdown between the Z7 and the Z6 on the Nikon side. So I think they're both gazing at Sony and deciding to basically emulate Sony's strategy. And whether or not this works out for them in the long term is anyone's guess. Another YouTube channel, Jay Christina, that I follow, has said that Canon and Nikon's full-frame mirrorless offerings seem to be only fueling sales of the Sony full-frame. So I don't know how true that is, and I don't have to worry about it because I'm not running Nikon or Canon. Those companies are not my responsibility. Would I have made different choices than they did? Certainly. This particular camera, as a successor to the D750, it lacks the second card slot. It lacks the available grip, vertical grip. You do not have a vertical grip for this. Or rather, there's something coming, but it's not really going to be a vertical grip because there's no shutter mech or shutter trigger in the vertical orientation. So it's just going to be a battery grip. So compatibility with older lenses is great with the FTZ adapter. The only annoyance with that is that it sticks out a little when you're adapting lenses. So if you're using tripods, it becomes a challenge. But for all those minor shortcomings, the image quality is fantastic. The sensor is great. The in-body stabilization is very good. I would say, when I'm shooting handheld, fairly slow shutter speed, somewhere around the focal length rule, like 1/60th for a 60 mil, I'm getting, 4 to 5 shots in focus, I would say. So that's a pretty good hit rate. And I'm sure it'll only get better with firmware updates. Anyway, so I'm pleased with my new lens purchase. Hope you're enjoying whatever kit you have. That's all I have to say today. Thanks for watching. Fade out.